Another question to Kurt again. Are you left-handed? Do you find it hard to get the right guitar player?
Usually, yeah. It's a bit easier now because I have an endorsement with Fender guitars now, so they're making me left-handed Mustangs, and so it's a lot easier. It used to be a total pain in the ass. I mean, when we were on our first couple of tours, you know, I'd only have one guitar, and it'd have to be cheap, you know, a $30 guitar from a pawn shop, and I'd end up breaking it after the show, and then the next day was consumed with trying to find a pawn shop and the few dollars that we had to buy a guitar, and then we'd have to turn the strings around and try to intonate it ourselves, and it just made for a really out of tune, raunchy experience, you know, during those first few years.
It was a pain in the ass trying to find a guitar.
Yeah, it was like the biggest dilemma of the day.
This one will work left-handed. Yeah, it's cut. This part's notched a little bit, you know.
It was a big hassle on those days.
The electronics are on the top.
In fact, we even built a bunch of Mustangs one time. We bought some necks and took pieces of wood and cut out the bodies and put the necks on, and they were completely out of tune all the time. And we did a pretty good job at it.
We had this little assembly line in the garage, and we hung them up and painted them and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I noticed you used some quite unique-looking guitars on stage anyway. Were those the ones you built yourself?
I don't think so. Those were all destroyed in one tour. And that was about like 4 years ago, probably, at least. But the ones I use now are just, I use this same Jaguar a lot, and mostly Mustangs. And I'm having Fender build me a special guitar that's like a mixture of a Mustang and a Jaguar, which might be kind of interesting.
Did you give them the directions what you wanted?
Yeah. Yeah, I took a picture of a Jaguar with a Polaroid and a picture of a Mustang, and then cut them down the middle and glued them together and said, "Build this."
This record, Nutra, is getting more back towards Bleach. And you said like months ago that you want to get rid of some of the fans who just came from the pop side. Do you think you will achieve that? Or is the name Nirvana already gone so big that the fans will buy everything? Doesn't matter what it is.
I don't know. I don't think so, because when we put out Incesticide, it didn't sell very well at all. It didn't even sell like a few 100,000 copies, you know?
Don't want to exclude anybody or anything, you know?
No, we're not as concerned with that as we used to be, you know? It's not...
I think that was like being a little reactionary.
Yeah.
Kind of going through the whole fame and fortune thing and just making statements like that. It's, you know...
There's nothing you can do about it, you know? You can put on a cabaret show and, you know, just make total mockery out of your success, or just deal with it, you know?
I guess, especially in the beginning, it must have been pretty hard to deal with that.
Yeah, it was, because we were really concerned with losing the audience that was into us before, you know? Yeah. We still wanted those people because, you know, supposedly we feel like we relate to them in a way, you know? I mean, those are the kind of people that we share common interests with, and those are the people that we're friends with, you know? So we were really worried about that. But I don't think we've lost very many of them, so it doesn't matter anymore. As long as they're there, we can, you know, just forget about the idiots in the back, you know, as long as they aren't causing trouble. That was another concern that we had, is that if we were to have this massively mainstream audience, that we were going to come across a lot of problems in live shows, you know, with macho guys beating up on girls and, you know, starting fights and things like that. You know, the typical things that you see at a Van Halen show or something, you know. And we just didn't want to have to deal with something like that.
I guess you must have found it pretty hard too, like getting that intensity the band has when do you sometimes have the feeling that you lose intensity when you play like this big arenas or bigger places?
Yeah. I don't find myself having as much fun as I did when we played in clubs or theaters. The biggest example is that was when we played in Europe, when we played all those outdoor festivals. I had a terrible time. I hated it. Like, Chris and Dave were like 30 feet away from me, you know? It was like, hi, you know, it just didn't seem right. So we're gonna make a few changes in our stage setup to alleviate some of those problems, you know? We're gonna squeeze closer together, you know, on these big stages, and whether that fucks with the visuals for the people out in the audience, oh well, you know, at least we'll play better, you know, enjoy ourselves.
We played in front of like 100,000 people down in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I just saw the video from the back of the stadium, and just like we were little ants on stage. It's like, God, I go, who was standing there? You know, I wonder how they feel about that.
I don't think our music translates in that kind of situation either, because people can't appreciate the energy that is on stage, at least, you know, because they're so far away.
It's almost understandable why a lot of lead singers in arena rock bands have this rapport with audience where they're going, hey, how's everybody doing? How are you in the back, people? You know, and stuff like that. Are you feeling all right? Because that's pretty much all you can understand when someone's saying something like that over a PA in front of 100,000 people. You know, it's hard for us to adapt to that because we just can't do that. We can't bring ourselves to be that ridiculous.
And doing a live show is like, you know, you try to experience this thing with the audience, kind of reciprocate this feeling, this energy. And I don't know how that translates from 3 people to 100,000 people. You know, it's like mathematically pretty wild.
We need to get a horn section. Some backup singers.
Are you thinking of employing a second guitar player again?
Yeah.
Will it be Big John?
No, we've hired Pat Smear, who's in the Germs. It's working out great.
He's got good energy. So I think that he'll add that to the band live. And if one of us is kind of slacking that night, I think we can count on him to keep the energy going. You know.
It's the backup engine.
But I guess it must make your job a lot easier too.
Yeah, it does. It totally relieves me of a lot of unnecessary things that I have to think about, you know.